Hey there, friend. Ever feel like time is slipping through your fingers faster than you can catch it? In today's fast-paced world, we're all racing against the clock, and the only pit stops are for gas, groceries, and the occasional existential crisis. So, why wait another minute? Let us help you make the most of your time, because in this fast-paced world, every second counts.
Gimmicks aside, welcome to my channel and thank you for being here today. So I feel somewhat qualified to talk on the subject as it's had a gloomy presence over my life for a long time. The gist of the subject is a sad and unfortunate reality of life that stability just happens to matter over creative pursuits, meaning that I have to get up and work 5 days a week so that I can pay the rent, when in reality I wish I could sit down and just draw on my iPad all day. Now, creativity and creative projects really do keep my life feeling grounded and stable, and it feels like I'm working towards something and putting effort into something and seeing results. So I quite enjoy it. Whether that just be turning ideas in my head into a story or a drawing, or expanding a universe I've already written. Art and writing are my bread and butter. They work together. I draw characters that I write stories of and vice versa, and quite frankly, it's a big part of me. For any creative person, I feel we all have a story behind why we draw what we draw, paint what we paint, sew what we sew, and so on. And now add YouTube into the mix because I've also been having a lot of fun with this channel. But holy shit, does it take a lot of creative energy, really every aspect of the process, from script writing to thumbnail design and everything in between. But don't get me wrong, I love it. It's just all very time consuming when you're dealing with limited time as it is. As I've gotten older, I've felt like there's less hours in a day, but of course there's a scientific reason for that. As you age, every minute is just a smaller fraction of your life. So while waiting for the last 5 minutes before the school bell rang felt like an eternity in 3rd grade, 5 minutes feels not so eternal now. With that, there's the added responsibilities of adulthood. If you live independently, you likely have no choice but to work and pay bills, which for many means working most days of the week. When not working, there's different obligations for everyone, some of the more prominent ones being cleaning, cooking, and schoolwork. Life getting in the way is a big reason that prevents artists and creators from doing what they love. This may sound like common sense to you, but I feel like it's just not talked about enough. I also think some people don't realize this, that we'd have more artists, creators, and creatives out there if people simply had time. You could say this about most career fields and hobbies, but maybe that says something about the lack of free time at least most people in America have outside of working to live. And so I guess as a bit of a channel update, I'm trying to overcome some of these time constraints and really put my all into this channel and try to get videos out more frequently. So yeah, the fun thing about repeating an action is that you get better at it. As I've practiced digital art in the past year, I've gotten faster at it, and as I've worked on video editing over this past year, I've also gotten faster at it. So there's hope. Sacrifice is the name of the game though. Because I want to work on my creative hobbies, there's things I have to sacrifice that just won't get done or would go neglected because I want time to work on the creative things that make me happy. You could likely assume that every artist is sacrificing something in order to do what they love. A social life, a romantic life, financial pursuits, non-art related goals, things like that. Things that have to go on the back burner so that you have time to be creative. Which, goddamn, in this age of poor mental health stemming from all sorts of causes, creativity is important and society really does not value it enough. Like, I wish that more people could have careers as artists and find fulfillment through that, but the unfortunate reality is that there's a limited number of jobs for artists, so many people have to resort to it just being a hobby or trying to make, you know, an income off of commissions if they want to financially profit off of their love of art. But not everyone wants to tie in money making and their hobbies. I also don't think that it's the only way to determine your success as an artist, as if you can make money off of it. I think as a young artist that was pushed on me a lot is, how are you going to profit off of this skill in the future? lo and behold, I didn't want to necessarily draw for a career, but I did want to write for a career, which is what I did end up studying, and I'm still working on my degree for. And it's more like the path I'm taking because I feel like I have to. But what actually grounds me and makes me happy is doing this. Sitting here talking into a microphone, not knowing how many views this video is going to pick up, not really knowing who I'm talking to, unless you wink wink hint hint comment and engage with me. But yeah, I also want to be consistent. And, you know, as this video sparks the question, is there even time to be creative? Well, yes, there is. But sometimes that amount of time doesn't just fall into your lap. You have to make it, and you have to put a lot more effort forward when your time is so limited. So that just sucks for a vast majority of people in the world that have to work to live and don't have that luxury of time. Time is just a weird concept. It filters into other more grandiose things like the concept of immortality, like having endless time, and the concept of death, which encapsulates the fact that time is limited. We also look at things like modern wages and how they compare to decades before, and the fact that people aren't getting paid fairly for their time, because time is a form of currency, and I think a lot of people don't put it into that perspective. So if time is a currency and you have to give a certain amount of it to your employer or your school or whatever keeps you busy in life, but then you're given that leftover amount to spend how you want, and you want to invest your time more into creative projects and maximize and capitalize on that time that you have, well, again, it's something I've personally struggled with, but I have listed out a few things that I want to utilize and I think could be helpful for others, because I don't want to just talk about this issue and then conclude the topic and not really have an answer if it's something you're struggling with too. So first of all, set realistic goals within your time constraints and what you can personally achieve. Also, never make a goal related to numbers, at least to start, because if you want to assume you're gonna get a certain amount of likes or subscribers, or if you have a shop and you want to assume you're gonna get a certain amount of sales, you're only setting yourself up for failure, because that's unpredictable and that is a goal that depends on other people. So if you're trying to get in the swing of things and utilize your time the best, then only make goals that work for you and that you have control over. Another goal for me would be like 2 uploads a month, because right now I average 1 upload a month and I'm not the biggest fan of that because I want to make more content. So if I try to do at least 2 videos a month, then I've set a realistic goal that's a step up from where I'm currently at, but 3 or 4 videos a month might be pushing it with the time limits I have. Step number 2 would be to identify time wasters. Time wasters are things that don't really give you much value, but hear me out, that varies from person to person. If you enjoy being a couch potato and watching TV, so do I. If you enjoy playing video games, so do I. If you enjoy laying in bed and mindlessly scrolling on your phone on your social media platform of choice, so do I. It's not a bad thing to have hobbies that allow us to wind down and relax and zone our brains out on something else that is in our own lives. But here's where the issue comes from. If that is the only thing you do and you want to be more productive, then you would have to cut out time that you're allotting to those other things. Also, a minor note that certain social media platforms can also hinder creativity. So if you seriously are in a creative rut, sometimes uninstalling certain apps and taking a break from those can restore your creativity, and I speak from personal experience. The next step in being better about maximizing your time to be creative is finding out what works for you. Are you the kind of person that likes to work on one thing at once and then finish that and move on to the next? Or do you like to have multiple things going at a time and then work on what you're feeling in that moment? For example, I have a ton of sketches that sit there unfinished until I feel like doing some line art, and then they'll sit there as line art for probably a long time until I feel like coloring. And it's just kind of the same process over and over again, but I I know that it's not the greatest if I'm trying to get something finished because I'm jumping around from piece to piece, working on multiple projects at a time. I've done it with videos too, where I'll be working on 2 videos at once, and then I'm like, why did I not just work on one, get that uploaded, and then work on the next one? And video making is obviously a little bit of a different situation than just simply drawing, but my point still stands. I guess it really just varies from activity to activity. But in general, just find how you work best. Do you work best in the comfort of your own home, or do you like to pack your things up and go sit in a cafe? Do you work best to music, or to a YouTube video, or to silence even? Do you work better on a schedule, or do schedules stress you out? I personally haven't recommended a schedule in this video because schedules stress me out and I will actively avoid something if I have scheduled it. Okay, so last point, and this may seem counterproductive to the topic of the video, but don't commit if you're not feeling it. Give yourself grace. I've struggled thinking I'm failing myself when I'm not actively working on a project, but if I let myself rest, I'll usually do my best work in the following days or weeks. Allow yourself to have other interests and hobbies. Don't feel guilty if you're not pouring every free minute into a creative project. Enjoy life. Go camping and watch a sunset on the lake. Go to movies with friends. Exist and live life, and know that your hobbies aren't going anywhere. So in conclusion, I don't think working and responsibilities are necessarily a bad thing. I actually like working. I think it gives me a sense of purpose and structure and makes my life not feel so mundane sometimes. But the issue mostly comes with a lack of time. I do struggle with time blindness and time management due to ADHD and /or my personality, but I still tried to cover as many bases as I could in this video. The fact of the matter is that being an adult and having hobbies and interests means that those often get to take the back burner to real life obligations, and I don't think anyone prepares you for it. But of all things, simply not having time is a sad reason to quit a dream or never start it. I don't have any YouTuber friends, and this is completely anecdotal, but from a viewer perspective, I see all kinds of channels uploading less. And I wonder how many creators just don't upload anymore, not because of a lack of passion or because of burnout, but because they don't have time. But from a creator's side of things, people do see and appreciate the time and effort that goes into creating videos or art or whatever it may be. I'll end this by saying that getting better at anything takes time investment. That could be sports, gaming, academics, and especially channeling yourself into art, creativity, and side projects. It's stereotypical, but most artists will tell someone who asks them why they're so good at art, time or practice. Which, you know, also just means time. I know in this video I refer to drawing and online creation a lot, but some of this could pertain to creative hobbies like crocheting a scarf for your cat. It's certainly not always easy to find time, but if you stick by your projects and see them through, I think it's always worth it in the end.